Camp Verde, Arizona, where the dead don't rest. A body is discovered hanging from the goalpost of the local high school football field. That's how the book starts. That's the Noose. And we have the author, Mwinstead, here to talk about it. What a provocative way to open a book. Tell us about the Noose.
Well, I thought that Camp Verde, the marshal's office, needed a little bit of praise for the wonderful work they do for that community in which I live. So I wrote the Noose primarily to focus on the marshal's office.
And the title, I assume, pertains to not only the murder mystery itself, but how many people kind of get caught in a situation they can't get out of, correct?
Yes. The premise is from a botched hanging of Thomas Blackjack Ketchum in 1901 in Clayton, New Mexico. And his great-grandson ends up in Camp Verde and starts getting revenge on the marshals. That's how it starts.
So tell us about some of the characters in the Noose.
The characters primarily is the bad guy, Clay Tolleson, and the marshals, and of course the women that are in their lives, including mothers and dads. It's a kind of a community book.
Because this is based in Camp Verde, will people reading the book kind of put two and two together and wonder if maybe you based it on certain people they might recognize in Camp Verde?
It could be possible, but the book starts, it's in 1970. So there are people that were there in 1970 are still there, trust me. Because I made a little mistake on a highway number and I heard about it.
Oh, really? Okay.
So there could be that possibility, yes.
So when it comes to writing mystery thrillers, what were your favorites as a reader?
Actually, Joseph Wambach. A lot of people don't even remember him, but Onion Field was one of the big books
classic.
in my life. But primarily, my style of writing actually comes from Anne Rice.
Really?
And the trilogy.
Interview with the Vampire,
yes,
right? Sure.
Her Interview with the Vampire Lestat, and Queen of the Damned. I've read them so many times I can't even tell you. She had the ability to bring you into the scene, and I wanted to be able to do that. And I think I have in all my murder mysteries. And
of course, Joseph Wambach wrote about real-life police stories. You combine that with the drama and the mystery of Anne Rice, and you've got yourself the Noose. Tell us about the titles of your other books.
My first book is called Evil in the Mirror. And it's based on identical twins that lived in Tucson, Arizona in 1968, and they were killing off hippie kids. I'm an identical twin. I was born, my brother and I were born in Tucson, and yes, we were there in 1968, but it's not our life story. But I patterned the book after our life in Tucson, moving to California, back to Tucson, and that made it much easier as far as research. And of course, I was very familiar with Tucson because that's where I was born.
So I can understand now if you watch a movie and the opening credits say based on a true story versus inspired by a true story. You can be led into that direction by actual life events, can't you?
Yes, you can. Absolutely. And that's exactly what I did.
So when aspiring authors, and everyone wants to write the great American novel, when aspiring authors see the success you're having, what kinds of questions do they ask you?
I think the biggest one is, how do I write a book, whether it be a murder mystery or a romance novel or whatever? How do I do it? Well, it's a simple answer. You start with one sentence. You step back from it, you look at it. If you like it, write a paragraph. If you like that, then write a chapter. And if that chapter enthralls you and you want to write more, you're a writer. Get with it.
I've interviewed dozens of authors, and every one of them has told me that once they got into writing the book and these characters started taking on a life of their own, the book started writing itself, and they had to somehow keep up with it while the idea was fresh. Has that happened to you?
I think very much so, because it all moves so fast that I had trouble keeping up with it. I tried writing a book in 1984, and that was before word processing. So it was paper and pen. And I couldn't do it because I couldn't keep up with the thoughts. But once I got into word processing and touch typing, it made it easy.
Speaking of paper and pen and the ideas not getting away from you, like a lot of writers, do you keep a tape recorder or a notepad or a cell phone by your bed just in case the muse hits while you're sleeping?
I don't in my bedroom because when I sleep, I sleep. But in my truck, when I'm out traveling, I always keep a mini recorder with me because that's where I get my ideas. And if I'm on the Harley, I also keep it there. I'll pull over and stop and get it on the tape recorder.
How important is it as a writer to stay disciplined while you're writing the book?
I think it's very important. First of all, you need to stay sober.
A lot of writers don't.
I know they don't. And I learned from Facebook very quickly that you can tell the ones that are not sober from the ones that are sober, and it's the same with books. So keep your head clear, stay the course, and don't listen to anybody but your heart and your mind.
It's funny you mentioned writers staying sober because during my opening I mentioned Billy Wilder, who directed and wrote The Lost Weekend, about that very kind of situation with a writer who couldn't stay sober, portrayed by Ray Milland. So how can people get a copy of The Noose?
I think you could just go on my website, and you can get it from Amazon.com. And you can get it from me personally. There's a place at the bottom of the page, and you put in your name and your email address, and we'll get together and work it out, and I'll send you a signed copy.
Nice. What is your next book going to be about?
That's a good one. This is my 4th book, and I did leave it open for a sequel. So it's going to be a continuation of this book, but it won't be a trilogy. That will be the end of it.
And the author is Mwinstead. The book is The Noose, and it's based in Camp Verde. Keep that in mind as you're reading The Noose. Stay tuned.